all about writing with Ben and Sara.
Welcome to All About Writing, the podcast that covers everything about the world of writing from the inside out. This is episode 48, part 7 on our series on writing life. I'm Ben, here with my co-host Sara, who is an award-winning, best-selling author, screenwriter, editor, and TED Talk presenter.
And I am Sara, here with my co-host Ben, who is an award-winning, best-selling author and ghostwriter, editor, and publisher. And today, on our Writing Life episode, we're going to talk about business writing. So this is going to be a deviation from talking about movies, talking about novels, talking about genre in terms of fiction writing. And we're going to talk kind of like as an intro of what is business writing. And I want Ben to answer that because he, between the two of us, is the business writer of the pair.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is that writing is a great career to have. And if you're thinking about becoming a professional author or a professional writer, that's fabulous. And I wish you the best of luck. But the thing about writing novels is that it doesn't pay that regularly. It can pay not bad when it pays, but it's not like you're getting a regular paycheck from writing novels. So if you want to think about becoming a professional writer, you want to think about what are some of the other ways that I can make money when I do writing. And so that's kind of what I wanted to approach on today.
So when I think of that, I think of somebody who writes articles for online magazines or blogs. Ghostwriting, I guess, which we've talked about in the past, is kind of a form of business writing because it still can be fiction, but it's not for you of the ghostwriter. So
Mhm.
what constitutes writing, business writing, and especially when it comes to a viable income stream, in your opinion?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, the things you mentioned can be valid. Ghostwriting is definitely a good career path if you can get into it. But it is a matter, you can't just start ghostwriting. Like, you have to sort of build a reputation, you have to get connected, you have to put yourself out there. It's a whole process. And I recommend, if anyone's interested in doing it, to give it a whirl, but just it's not a quick fix. Ghostwriting is something that comes when you've got a reputation and you've got some experience. Um, but other kinds of business writing are things like, content creators for sure, like writing articles. If you want to hook up with a website that needs to churn out a lot of content, you can do some writing there. I'll be honest, AI is doing quite a lot of that these days. So those jobs don't exist quite as much as they used to. Um, but certainly with companies, a lot of big companies, they have websites to keep current, so they have to create articles and just content. A lot of companies still do hire actual people to do the writing. And so that's a great place to look. A lot of big companies will look for content writers, and you will usually get hired by contract. They'll pay you $200 to write an article of this length on this topic, and you've got this much time to do it. And you can just sit down and you can just churn out really quick articles, and they'll probably have parameters on, we want it to be this long, we want you to cover these basic topics, and we want you to structure it like this. And they'll give you a framework. And you, as the professional writer, just sit down and work your magic with your keyboard to turn their thoughts into a compelling, interesting, well-flowing article. You'd be surprised how many companies still need that service done. Because I know, because we're writers, and we love writing, is our favorite thing. There are a lot of people in this world who hate writing. They hate it so much, and it's so hard for them, and they can't imagine how anyone could do it fast. So a lot of executives are like that. A lot of business people, engineers, and so on, they are very smart people in their field, but written communication is not their superpower. And so they need to hire people to do this writing for them. Now, that's sort of business writing where you're writing content pieces, or even you're writing reports. Like, they'll give you, okay, we have to make this presentation to this ministry or this department. Just need somebody to take our thoughts and put it together. That sort of writing, it's contract work that lots of jobs are out there, and you can just start applying for them. If you go searching in a lot of job banks and a lot of company websites, you'll find these opportunities. And they're usually fairly small. It'll probably take you a couple of days. It'll pay you, a few hundred to maybe $1,000 a pop type thing. These are the sorts of numbers I'm talking about, which by themselves are not enough to make you a professional writer. But if you can get in with one company or with a couple of clients or one agency, then you can actually have quite a bit of work coming your way. And it'll become fairly regular just by the sheer volume coming at you.
I was going to say technical writing, things like that. Those are kind of a bread and butter way of having, even if it's $1,000 a month. I mean, 12 grand is nothing to snooze at, especially
Mhm.
when a lot of people who write in genre fiction will never see that number their entire career. And, and, and I think that it's nothing to, I think, thumb our noses at, especially if we want writing to be something, um, that occupies our time. And
Mhm.
um I I guess if you were to recommend someone who even wants to dabble their toes in this, ghostwriting, obviously, like you said, is a huge thing. Where would people start? Like you're
Mhm.
saying job banks, can you maybe list some specifics, or do they just start Googling and hope something on LinkedIn pops up? I mean, where
Yeah,
do they
yeah, I mean, certainly, but also local governments actually are a great
oh,
source for this because governments have to produce all kinds of reports. That's kind of what makes government churn along is reports. And a lot of people in government don't really like writing, not particularly good at it, and that is a culture that has learned to outsource writing. It's actually quite common to do it. So depending on where you live, you might live in a big city where there's a big, city government that'll have lots of money. The chances are decent that they're there. You might live in a small town, and maybe your local council doesn't have a lot of money for that. Fair enough, but you never know. If you live in a small town, you might want to do a little bit of networking, pop by a city council meeting and just get chatting with some of the city employees and ask if they need any help writing reports. And you might be amazed at how much they will say yes. And they might not be able to pay you a lot, but it's a start and it gets you going.
Well, and I
So
was gonna say, it's a resume builder, if anything, even if it's
that's right.
not very high paying. And I was gonna say, I mean, for any type of business writing, whatever it may be, do people have to have credentials of any kind? Or are you just, are you saying, is it make sense to say, well, I'll do the first city report for free and you can see my
Yeah.
prowess? Like, what's the best way, especially when you don't have a background
Yep.
in
I
business?
would definitely recommend that. And there's nothing wrong with like doing the first one for free, just
Okay.
to get some exposure, uh, to get some experience. Someone else who really loves getting things for free is charities. So charitable organizations also they need to write grant proposals, they need to write their website copy, they need to write their brochures. Charitable organizations are a great place to get some experience. You may not make a lot of money, but you'll get the experience. So then you can then go to the local city council or go to the local, big company that employs a lot of people nearby and show them your resume and get going. So it is just a matter of digging, really. Now, there are certainly websites like Indeed where posts will be made for writers. LinkedIn, yeah, you can certainly start looking there. A lot of these positions are just kind of thrown out because the beauty about writing is you can do it anywhere. Like if you want to build the connections, I recommend you start in your hometown and find local connections there. But the internet is amazing for this that you could be writing for people, 4 states away, or even in another country, as long as they use the same language that you do and use the same spellings. Like, for example, if you're American and you would like to write for the British government, remember all those extraneous U's that go in the words? Just remember that. But for that sort of writing, there's probably a writing style that you'd be given. And if you're a writer of decent skill, you would understand that and you'd be able to adapt to it, or
Right.
just change your language to English UK, and it'll tell you every time you spell color wrong.
Yeah,
So,
or organization. We spell it in America with a Z. You guys spell
oh
it.
yes, that's right.
Yeah, yeah,
The Z.
yeah,
Yes, I do recall.
yeah, yeah. So, no, that's great advice. And I guess, are you saying that, I don't want to give the impression that business writing is a way to make a living per
Mm,
se, but it's a viable option to potentially grow. Is that what you're kind of recommending? Like, hey, if you want this writing to be a full-time job, but obviously your royalties from your fiction books are at least for a while going to be probably a little few and far between until you get some steam going. Here's a way to make money on the side, and eventually it can be 5 hours to this, 5 hours to that, and there's your day, and you're making enough money to live off of. I mean, is that an actual option for people to
yeah.
as business writing? Is that what we're telling our listeners? Like, if you go into business writing, there's a chance that you can make a decent amount of money off of it.
Yes, absolutely, you can. It'll take a little bit of time, but not as much time as like fiction writing will take, because the kind of writing you'll do for businesses and organizations is usually very short, like 1,000 words type thing, which for, your average author will take a few hours to put together. So it's a few hours work for a few $100s, and it starts small, but as you start to get used to it, you get better at it, you get more connections, you can grow it as big as you want, really. It'll take a little bit of time, but whereas with writing a novel, it might take you 2 years to write your novel, and during those 2 years, you are not making any money for that novel. Whereas business writing gives you that immediate feedback of, okay, I got some cash coming in. And it is flexible. Most of the time, you will be a contract writer. You won't be employed by the city or by the company. They just hire you when they need you. So you have the flexibility to say, no, thanks. I'm not going to apply for that job, or I'm too busy right now, so I'm not going to take that one. You can make it as big or small as you want. There's a great deal of flexibility. The other benefit of doing that kind of writing, it may not be what you want, like, writing tourist articles or writing technical reports, or medical investigation things. It may not be your thing, but you're still practicing your craft. And that's really important as a writer, is you're still getting words down in an effective way. You have to learn to change your tone and change your style. It will make you a better writer for doing this, because they want efficiency and they want effectiveness. And then you can take those skills and you can apply it to your fiction writing afterwards. So
Yeah.
there's lots of benefits here.
And you're getting paid to practice in a way, which
You're
is,
getting paid to practice. Yeah.
yeah.
And you're also networking and meeting new people and learning new things. There's there's lots of benefits to this sort of business writing, where you're sort of a contract writer for an organization. It's not that hard to get into if you do a bit of hunting, a little bit of digging. There are lots of jobs out there, and you only need to get a few before you now have a resume that you can start to turn into bigger and better jobs.
That's great. Great. I have no more questions. Did I forget anything to talk to ask you?
No,
Because
it's a
I'm,
pretty simple concept, really.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I just want to encourage everyone that if you are interested in being a professional writer and your fiction hasn't taken off yet, there is the world of business writing, of contract writing, of article writing, of report writing, which is out there. It's everywhere. Lots of people still need it, and it's pretty accessible. So I encourage you to dig into that.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's it. That's our show for today, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our chats, and feel free to leave a review, because it really does help us a lot. If anyone is looking for any help with any aspect of their writing, we recommend our friends at Cascadia Author Services, and you can find them at cascadiaauthorservices.com. You can catch up with Sarah at sarahdahlman.com and on Instagram.
And you can find Ben at bennettrcoles.com, as well as on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks again for joining us today. Please do reach out if there are any other topics you'd like us to cover that we haven't yet, and we'll see you again when we next chat all about writing.
This has been All About Writing with Ben and Sara.